What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Unclipped podcast. I'm Kasey Kazliner, joined by a new host. Do you
My
want
na-
to say who you are?
absolutely. My name is Aarav Grover. It's a blast to be here. Longtime Clipper fan, following the team since I was a kid. Um, was really overjoyed when Casey invited me to be a co-host on this pod. So just excited to be here.
Yeah, the Clippers are an interesting team. I mean, historically, and even now, I mean, with the new arena, it feels like they're kind of a brand new team with the new branding and everything. You've kind of been through it all. What's your kind of first memory as being a Clippers fan?
Lob City for sure. I
Mhm.
was kind of too young to remember the Sterling era. When I was 8 years old, is when Steve Ballmer bought the team. Since then, it's been good vibes, some sad playoff moments, but honestly, I think regular season wise, we've been a strong team. 14 winning seasons in a row. Just having good players, all stars, people who want to come to LA and play here. Um, yeah, I just Lob City was my first memory, and from there, it's been a road. You
I
know.
remember Lob City for sure, and it feels like, I mean, you and I have been talking for, I've known you for a couple years now, and I feel like
Yeah.
whenever we talk or see each other, it's always about
It's just
basketball.
basketball.
So I'm
Yeah,
glad to have you on, and it's been an
definitely.
interesting start for the Clippers, right? I mean, they're 2-2, two wins at home that haven't been perfect wins, but they've shown sparks, and then two pretty bad losses on the road.
Yeah.
We'll talk about last night more specifically, but as a whole, these four games so far, what has sort of been your reactions? Where do you feel this team is at? The West is so competitive, but there are some teams in the West that have gotten worse and some that have gotten better. Where do you sort of see the Clippers fitting in right now?
I think the sample size is really low for
Sure.
sure. 4 games, it's tough to tell. The 2 games we've won, I think we've had great sparks of just overall, I would say, just connectedness. I think we've meshed really well when we're playing well and when we're together. But the moments that I see that we're just not clicking is it's tough. Like I think that this team has a really high ceiling. And I think last year's team had a mid floor, but this year's team's floor is a lot lower than last year's, I think, and it's showing a bit.
Yeah, and some of the additions were, huge, obviously, for this team. I mean, Brad
Absolutely.
Brad Beal, we haven't really been able to see him a whole lot. He played two games,
No, yeah.
combined for 11 points between the two, but he's been injured, and that's forced Ty Lue to make some kind of weird decisions with the lineup. I mean, starting Bogdanovich, even if he only plays 10 minutes, is not going to help you out a whole
No,
lot.
Bogey's averaging an amazing 0 points or whatever.
Yeah,
I've seen him miss every single basket,
and he
unfortunately.
turns the ball over, and
Yeah.
he just there's not a whole lot he can do with
Not a
this
positive
offense.
defender.
No.
No.
I will say though, I mean, having John Collins to kind of supplement those minutes, I think one thing about John Collins I really appreciate is his ability to guard the four. Because in the past they've forced Kawhi to have to do all these different things. He's
Yep.
a guy who's had to guard guards and had to guard forwards. But when you bring in a guy like John Collins off the bench early on in the first quarter, which Ty Lue has done, you're able to have more flexibility defensively. And John Collins also is a very efficient and effective scorer. He's
For
a guy who
sure.
can get inside, get downhill. What have been
He
your
can shoot.
thoughts on the couple of newcomers that the Clippers have had?
Well, John Collins is great, getting inside, rim pressure, paint, everything. He can shoot the three too.
Yeah.
I mean, he averaged last year what 38, 39. Like there's been an upward trend for sure for his three-point shooting over the last few years, and I think that's something that's not to be ignored because the Clippers historically have needed that three-point push a lot of times to make the playoffs and also to just help their team be pretty good in general. I think John Collins' rim pressure is something that is vital to the team right now. Like we said, Brad Beal, he's there. He's filling the spot of Norman Powell, who we traded for John Collins. Norman Powell last year, iffy season.
Yeah.
I think he was a great player. We missed him a bit during that 18-3 stretch we had, but I think he brought rim pressure, he brought shooting, and he just brought consistent paint touches that we're really lacking right now.
Yeah, and even though, I mean, last year the Clippers didn't have the best start of the season, they lost their first four ever games into a dome.
Yeah,
I mean, Norman Powell was very good to open the year.
on fire.
Yeah, he was on fire. So, yeah, I think they definitely miss him. And, he's a guy that's thriving right now in Miami. So you're happy for him. But
Happy for him for sure.
yeah, I think it's interesting too because, we haven't seen a whole lot of production from Derrick Jones Jr. either, at least from a scoring standpoint. And so, I feel like I agree with you. I think right now the sample size is small. It feels like when you have a starting lineup that right now with Beal injured that is just relying so heavily on James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, and Ivica Zubats, it's just it feels like that isn't sustainable to me. Like having three superstars on your team is is great, but you have to supplement that, and that's why you have a starting lineup of five well-rounded guys, excuse me, because you want to have that flexibility. And it just feels like they don't have that right now. I'm sure when they get Beal back, they'll have it, but I don't know. What's your sort of thoughts on the starting lineup so far? I mean, we talked about Bogdanovich, but what about the other four guys?
My ideal starting lineup, if you won't mind me saying,
Sure, go for it.
James Harden at the 1. I think we bring in Chris Dunn at the 2. Great point of attack defender, much stronger than Derrick Jones Jr. His three-point shooting is not as great, but I think everybody else in the starting lineup can supplement that, obviously other than Zoo. I'll say at the 3, we can Kawhi. At the 4, John Collins, and at the 5, Zoo. I think that's a strong starting lineup. Beal is great. He's not been available.
Mhm.
That's something the Clippers have struggled with in years past. Right now, I don't trust Beal to take care of the starting lineup, to just be there. I don't think it's a good fit right now.
Yeah, and I think when he comes back, like the decision might have to be made. Maybe
Exactly.
that's why Ty Lue is waiting. Maybe he wants to see what a full.
Sure, but why is he starting Bogey?
Yeah, that I
Why is he
completely
starting
agree with.
Bogdanovich?
That doesn't make sense. And
No.
a guy I want to bring up too is because we talk about maybe 6 to 8 guys on the bench being just huge for the Clippers so far. One of those is Brook Lopez.
Oh, huge.
Yeah, defensively, I mean the Clippers. It's funny optic wise are way better defensively than what the net rating
100%.
says. Like the defensive rating, I think they're 16th in the NBA right
Yeah.
now. The ratings say the Clippers are a much better offensive team than defensive team, but I think you and I both know that the defense has had some really good moments this year, and a lot of that has hinged on Zoo, but also Brook Lopez coming in for some really big moments when the Clippers need stops and just being a wall.
Yeah, they're both averaging about a block per game, but I think their defensive impact is so much stronger than that. You can see when they're in the paint, going up against guys, not fouling, staying straight up like a wall. It's pretty impressive, and I think both of them uh, probably make up the strongest two center rotation the Clippers have had in a while. Honestly, since Isaiah Hartenstein.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously saw last game that defense at some times wasn't really the issue, is the offense, right?
Yeah.
And James Harden and Kawhi Leonard essentially checked themselves out of the game
They did.
in the third quarter. What were your thoughts on that? I mean, obviously, you don't want to see that in game 5 or game 4 if you're a Clippers fan, because you have to play 82, and if you get to the playoffs more, this is a team that's built to win now. This is the average age I think is 33 on the Clippers. You're built to win now, but it feels like sustainability of this roster with the Beal injury and just the tiredness. We haven't seen a whole lot of that with Harden and Leonard so far, but this game we did. And when you play against a team like the Warriors, they're quick. It's hard to keep up when when the Clippers they're a slower team. That's just how it is. Like it's
Yeah.
not a knock on them necessarily because
No.
they're still winning some games, but they play slower.
Definitely. I think that Clippers play styles a lot has to do with lulling you to sleep in the half court, kind of making you sit, think about your defensive possession, think about who you're guarding matchups, and then quick, back cut, quick, curl off the screen, quick, flare screen, something
Right.
like that. Getting a shooter, getting paint touch, kicking it out, getting a shot. It has to do a lot with the half court. And last night Clippers came into the game, 8th in the league in half court offensive rating. I don't know what it is now, but it's definitely not that.
Yeah, and I think their overall offensive rating is I think 9th in the NBA, which
Still,
feels
after last night?
I think still after last night
Really?
feels generous to me.
Very.
And again, like the power rankings have been pretty generous to the Clippers as well. Like I think a lot of people aren't necessarily just like digesting what they've been doing, and I think they're a team that's going to make the playoffs for sure. I think like
Mhm.
there's certain teams that the sheer level of talent on the team is going to help them get. I mean, we mentioned the big three in the starting lineup, and if Zoo keeps up his production, maybe another depoy candidate. We'll see. But I think the health problem is definitely something that you're just gonna have to probably deal with this year. It sucks, but they're an older team. That's just the way it goes. But I wanted to ask you just about Ty Lue for a moment because I feel like we
Yeah.
we kind of brought up that third quarter lineup,
did.
but they had just a lineup that wasn't built for offense. What were your thoughts on the substitutions made and Ty Lue right now and 4 games in?
I think Ty Lue historically has been a good coach for the Clippers. His lineups have been questionable. I think the energy he brings to the locker room isn't the best. He's just I don't see him being that vocal on the court. I don't see him energizing players as much as I've seen other coaches. Maybe that's his play style. Maybe that's how he wins rings. But then again, his ring was with LeBron.
Yeah.
It's a LeBron-centered offense. I really don't see any. I don't see any fluctuation from that in his lineups now. It's all like one player centered lineup, kind of waiting for them to do something offensively, kick out, screen, something. It's really kind of boring, and I don't see any excitement from that. And I think that plays a lot into his coaching style, how he learned to coach, and kind of now what's going on.
And we saw against Portland and Golden State, like allowing runs that just piled on was the problem. And then against the Warriors, the Clippers had gotten within 7 in the third quarter, and then Ty Lue brings out a lineup that's Derrick Jones Jr., Chris Paul, Brooke Lopez, Chris Dunn, John Collins. And I mean, Chris Dunn and John Collins are two guys that, like you mentioned, are worthy starters, and Derrick Jones Jr. is a starter, but that's not an offense to me, run by Chris Paul that
No,
is going to do a whole lot,
not at all.
to pick up the tempo.
No, I saw Chris Paul and Brooke Lopez talking to each other a little bit. I didn't really catch what they were saying,
Right.
obviously, but it looked like there was a mismatch in their communication a little bit. It looked like they were confused about what was going on. I don't really get playing Chris Paul and Chris Dunn together because if you have Derrick Jones Jr. and John Collins and Brooke Lopez, your defense is taken care of. Why are you playing Chris Dunn with that lineup? Play a scorer. We don't have Beal, but like play Kawhi in that lineup, something like that. And then if on the other hand, offensively, we're lacking a lot there. So we have the defense taken care of. Take Chris Paul out for someone. He's not going to give you that much on the board.
No.
He'll give you some assists. He'll give you some okay points. Like it's not the best lineup, and I think it was really stagnant. We struggled and allowed those runs that you're talking about.
Yeah, and I mean, like Collins and Dunn can space pretty well, and I think
Definitely.
that's something that helps the Clippers. But then you give the ball to Chris Paul, and it's like, what is he going to do with that spacing? Not a whole lot. I think Brooke Lopez is a good guy to have to go to the high post and set up screens for whoever's running the point. But to your point, like you're just not going to see a whole lot of that from Chris Paul. But I want to ask you too, because I mean they've won 2 games at home, won pretty convincingly over Phoenix, and then against Portland that was a little bit closer. They still won by 7 points, even though that game had a lot of issues. What's been the issue on the road? Obviously, we're playing on the road's tough, but the way they've lost, especially against a team like Utah to open up the season. What's been your assessment on the differences between home and away?
I think the Clippers have a lot more energy at home. It's pretty obvious with the wall, their new arena. It's still new. Um, Fans are a lot more engaged. The players are a lot more engaged. I think that should not leave the second we step out of the arena because to start the season, Utah, it's a trap game. You know it's a trap game. Coming into that, all the players are like, all right, Utah, sure. They sucked last season. They're gonna suck this season. Who do they have? That's the minds. If that's the mindset you go into the game with, you're cooked. You have to go into each game with the same mindset of we're gonna win this game. This is what we need to do to win this game. Box out, get rebounds, make good passes, set good screens. It's the same things you need to do over and over in order to win these games. And they just didn't have that mindset, and it was so obvious. The Warriors had so much more energy than us. They had that drive. They were hustling on plays. They were giving it that extra 10% to box out to get to the rim.
Yeah, I
Just
agree. And talking about turning over the ball. I mean, the Clippers have turned the ball more than any other team in the NBA this year, except for the Lakers. They're tied.
22 turnovers a game.
Yeah, them and the Lakers are tied right now, I believe, for last. And I also fouling. Like it just feels like the amount. I mean, we saw in that Portland game. And I know like fouling is hard to control in this age of the NBA with just how many whistles there are, but the turnovers and the fouling in that game specifically, and we saw it against Golden State too. I mean, I guess the Clippers were under their average. They only turned over the ball 16 times, but that was still more than the
It's a lot.
Warriors did.
It's too much.
It's too much. I mean, it feels like, and Ty Lue's talked about this in the press conferences, that they're passing too soft. They're not really organizing offense with the starting lineup. I think once Collins and Dunn come in, they're able to orchestrate more. And maybe some of that's because of the veteran experience. I mean, Dunn has been in the league for a handful of years. So is Collins, but so is Bogdanovich. And I don't think he's a guy that you should
He's
have
not
as an
someone you want
example.
making plays.
No,
No.
but if he's going to start though, you gotta
Yeah,
have that confidence in him. And he didn't play the first 2 games, and that was because of communication. So I don't know. I think he's a guy that just it makes no sense for him to play. We already talked about him, so it's not important. But I think for the Clippers going forward, you have to find a way to be more crisp in the passing game and set more things up for your stars. It feels like for how good Harden and Kawhi have been playing, they've still been held back by the fact that the offense just hasn't been quick. And
no.
those guys are vets. They're older, but they can still play quick sometimes.
Yeah, I think to your point, Harden and Kawhi have been great this season. I would put most of the blame on Ty Lue and his lineups. Honestly, I've really struggled to see, other than the starting lineup, which I still don't like, a strong offensive and defensive lineup. Which, when you look at this Clipper team, go down the roster, we have some really strong two-way players. Nicholas Batum, Derek Jones Jr., John Collins, Kawhi Leonard, Ivica Zubac. That lineup to end the second quarter or third quarter was inexcusable. The Chris Paul, Chris Dunn, Derek Jones Jr., John Collins, Brooke Lopez. Three of those guys are guys who sit in the corner and wait for a catch and shoot three. Maybe pump fake drive to the rim after they get the ball. You can't have three guys in an offense that needs to be producing against the Golden State Warriors. Brooke Lopez, great vet. He's not going to produce on offense. The most he can do at this stage in his career is pick and pop, pick and roll and pass. That's not getting you anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it's kind of an echo chamber. They have a lot of players who play the same way. And to your point, like that's not necessarily always a bad thing, but when you're playing like this early on in the year, it's never when you're this old, like it's not gonna necessarily get better. And they're just playing slow. And I think it wouldn't be the worst thing to try out some of these younger guys. Like Kobe Sanders, he had a really good preseason. I
Mhm.
know he's raw. He's a young guy. Yannick Niederhauser as well. Like there's some young guys on this team that aren't going to get a lot of playing time just because of the sheer volume of vets on this team, but I don't think it'd be the worst thing to just try it out sometime. Maybe not starting, but just give it a go.
Talk to Ty Lue about it, man. Clippers history with I think developing players has been pretty sad over the last couple of years. Can't draft that well. The last few draft picks we've had, I don't want to talk about because they got traded to the Thunder for Paul George.
Oh yeah.
So I think developing players isn't really one of the Clippers staff's strong suits. I think there is a lot of room for improvement there. For now, I say we just look at this roster and look at the lineups that can produce most offensively and defensively. I'm really disappointed, to be quite honest with you, in the actual lineups that I've seen. I think we have a lot more firepower than we've seen. Part of it is attributed to Bradley Beal being out, but I think the coaching staff can take a look and needs to reconsider what they've been doing.
I want to ask you, like, when Bradley Beal does come back, which it sounds like it won't be too long from now. It doesn't sound like he has a severe injury, but you never know. What do you expect to see out of the Clippers offense and defense, but like mostly their offense because Beal is a guy who's known for his volume scoring.
Rim pressure. That's the one thing I'll say we've lacked in the last 4 games, even though we won 2 of them. Rim pressure, constant drive, touching the paint, kicking it out, pass, swing to the corner, drive it, same over and over. It's a staple in every single NBA offense now, and it's missing from the Clippers, and it's pretty obvious. So I think that's something he can bring. Also, getting to the rim, more fouls. You initiate more contact, you get more players involved in the game. It just becomes more of a it becomes a rougher game, and I think it also gets the team more energized.
Yeah, I agree. And I think if you're the Clippers, like said it already, if you're playing slow and that's your ceiling, embrace it. Get to the free throw line, slow the game down.
Yeah,
Like you can't you can't be a slow team and try to play fast. If you're going to be a slow team, get to the free throw line. And we know how good James Harden is at that. The one thing about Harden that he's struggled with this year, and this kind of goes to what we were already talking about, is those turnovers. He's averaging 4 per game. That leads the team. And I know that the style of play that Harden exhibits is going to naturally sort of generate turnovers in that way because, he's a guy that, you know, he's a flashy player. Like it makes sense. He's a guard,
for sure.
but Harden needs to get to the line more. And that goes with rim pressure. And I think too, like you brought up Beal, he's a guy who can really drive to the rim well. And if you combine that with Harden's elusiveness, you're gonna have a consistent flow. And it feels like, they probably practice a lot of these things in the offseason with Beal. So to have him out of the script so early, the playbook, so to speak, is probably, you know, very much in shambles. So that's
Definitely.
that's one other thing too, the
Throwing us
personnel.
off.
I want to talk about the schedule coming up too, because the Clippers are back at home for 3 more home games before they go on the road again. A lot of home games coming up.
Can I go
Actually.
back to turnovers real quick?
Yeah, go
Just
for it.
before you go
Yeah.
go with that. Take a look at Bogdanovic's minutes played and his turnovers. He's averaging 16 and a half minutes played, 2.5 turnovers a
Wow.
game. James Harden is playing double the minutes and has 4 turnovers.
Yeah. No, I think Harden, like, if you look at the
It's
two,
part of the play style.
yeah, it's just, I mean, I think we can both agree, but Donovan should not be playing
He
right
should
now.
not.
He
No.
should be a DNP every night. And I mean, if that's going to happen,
For sure.
you trade or waive him.
Yeah.
It's no other way to put it. And I think I haven't really understood why Ty Lue has rolled with that. Like, he hasn't been good at all.
Nope.
I don't really understand that at all.
I think Ty Lue has made some questionable decisions over the years with these lineups. You look back to Marcus Morris playing way too many minutes in some playoff series. PJ Tucker playing too much. I can keep going on and on, but
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of glad you brought up, the lineups and whatnot, because we haven't really talked about Derek Jones Jr. a little bit. I mean, he's a guy that, like, he knows his role,
Mhm.
which I appreciate. But again, I think there's a clear top 3 in that starting 5, and I don't know if I put Jones Jr. in that category. But
I don't think so.
He's a good shooter. Like, what's your thoughts on him?
He's playing great this year, actually. I think he's shooting the ball with a lot more confidence. He worked
Yeah.
on that for 30 days straight, apparently, in the offseason. You can see he's averaging 49% from 3. That's a career high. 4-game, small sample size. Sure. But I can just tell he has a lot more confidence than last season. I also think that him and John Collins having that battle in the preseason for that starting spot definitely made him work a lot harder.
Yeah, and
you can see.
He knows his
So,
role. That's the
Mhm.
biggest thing for me. He's not trying to be a James Harden, and he
Mhm.
never has been. So I appreciate that from him. We'll see if he adds more and keeps up that clip he has going on.
Yep.
But let's look at the schedule, because I mentioned, the Clippers have played well at home. They have a handful of their next few games. I mean, they're going to basically be at home, until the middle of November. They have one away game in Phoenix, and that'll be a kind of a series against Phoenix, playing them 2 times in 3 days. But they got the NBA Cup coming up on Halloween against the Pelicans. I know a lot of people don't care about the NBA Cup a whole lot and what it means, but that's it's a stretch right now where the Clippers can gather some ground. And I think if you're not going to have Beal, you have to supplement for that somehow. And I think going forward, you have New Orleans, you have Miami, then OKC. It's not a 3-0 guarantee right there. That's a tough
No,
stretch. I mean,
for
New
sure.
Orleans is maybe the weaker of the bunch, but what's your thoughts on the upcoming schedule? Then you go to Phoenix, you've already beat by 27 points, and then you come back and play Phoenix.
I think you just have to capitalize on the games you can win while Beal is out. Beal being out shouldn't be the reason we lose games, but I think it can contribute to that. And so just trying to win where we can. OKC is going to be tough. I'm not going to lie. Defending champions, they always have played well against us. Shea said he has a chip on his shoulder against the Clippers every time he plays them. So I think that's a game that I would understand if we lost, but I'm not excusing that we lost. I think Phoenix back to back, wherever we play them, we need to beat them. They don't have anybody significant right now other than Devin Booker, and we should be able to shut them down. Atlanta should be fine. Denver's another one, playoff rematch. I think we need to take care of business at home for sure. And just kind of, I said this earlier, but just take care of things where we can and then kind of let the rest play out.
Yeah, and I think one thing the Clippers have struggled with a little bit too is letting, I don't know if I'd say an unsung hero, letting somebody who wouldn't typically score 20 plus to score 20 plus. We saw that against Phoenix. I mean, Dylan Brooks, he's a good player, but I don't see him putting up those numbers every night. Moses Moody against the Warriors, who just came back from injury, he put up a lot of points. Portland, they're a sneaky good team. I like Portland a lot this year. I mean, Blake Wesley, he's not a guy who's a a spark plug every single night.
Respectfully, who is Blake Wesley?
Yeah, and he locked down the
he did.
Clippers.
He did.
And then against Utah, they're also a weird team because they're young and they're kind of unpredictable. Walker Kessler is perfect from the field and scores 22, and he's a good player. Don't get me wrong, but it just feels like some of these guys are coming out of the woods and creating an extra problem for the Clippers
Mhm.
because the Clippers don't necessarily they have strong defense from some avenues, but they're always kind of focusing on like the Devin Bookers, like you said, and not really aiming, when that second group comes out to match that par.
For sure. I definitely will say we did shut down Devin Booker at
Yeah,
the Suns game.
I like
I
that.
think Dylan Brooks capitalized off of that and took advantage of some of the open shots he was getting. He definitely created a lot on his own, which was impressive. But part of it, part of the opposing team's players who would typically not play as well, playing well, can be attributed to the Clippers shutting down the main players and the stars. But I think part of it is just a lot of laziness. Um, Defense hasn't been that strong or effective, and I can visibly see Jeff Van Gundy's frustration on the bench. So
Basketball's a game of matchups, right? Like you can lock down the number one guy, but it's a puzzle, right? Like you have to figure out how you can. I mean, your rotation is 8 to 10 guys on any given night, right? So
10 max.
sometimes less than 10. So you have to find out how you can play some of these deeper teams. And I think a team like Phoenix is not super deep. So if you're shutting down Booker, that's great, but it should be a given that you're shutting down Brooks.
Definitely.
With that said, so yeah, I agree with you. I don't even know if we brought this up, but the Clippers only scoring 79 points against Golden State last night in San Francisco, and the Warriors were on the tail end of a back-to-back. I think that was the lowest point total for the Clippers in a game in a handful of years. I don't know how many off the top of my head, but that was the lowest amount of points the Clippers have scored in a game, showing the offensive inconsistencies. We talked about the lineups. We talked about the defense still needing to improve and the turnovers as well. But what was your reaction to them scoring under 80 when they were kind of, I mean, they came out slow against the Warriors, but they got back, at a certain point.
By halftime, we were right
Winning.
there. Yeah, we were
Yeah.
winning, and I think starting the third quarter was really slow. I know Ty Lue made one or two substitutions, and I don't know what ended up happening within the team, but it just looked like there was a disconnect, and we kind of were confused. The Warriors came out slashing. I mean, shooting threes, attacking the rim. Kuminga was on top of it. Curry was on top. I mean, they just looked a lot more together. And I think Steve Kerr had told them something in the locker room that was just not similar to what Ty Lue had said. And it just looked really weird. That's the word I'll use. It just looked weird as to why we looked so lethargic and stagnant. And I mean, when the Clippers are playing bad, it could pretty clearly be attributed to two things. They're old and slow, but that doesn't mean that we need to be playing bad.
Yeah, and I think we talked about it. Like when you have those stars on the team, especially a guy like Zubats, who's not necessarily as old, like
No, he's not old at all.
the Clippers are sort of made fun of for being an old team, but they have younger players who are very solid, and Zubats is one of them, and he has been a revelation for this team. I mean, defensively, he's the anchor and he can score as well. He's a guy that they need to feed more to. I think that's the one takeaway. There's been certain points where he's either not playing for whatever reason or just flat out, they're not feeding him. And I think some of that is the personnel they have on the team, but some of it's just the game plan. And he's a guy that, he's not quite Nikola Jokic, but he is in the top tier of centers in this league.
He's top 5, top 7, top 8
Yeah.
right there.
And he's not afraid to take a lot of shots. I actually asked Ty Lue, what enabled him to take 9 more shots against, I believe against Portland than Phoenix. He only took 5 against Phoenix and then 14 against Portland. And they fed him that game, but that's not always the case. So before we wrap up, I want to look at the Western Conference because obviously it's early. The standings mean nothing right now, but when you look at these standings, the way I looked at it going into the NBA season was, okay, the Suns lost Kevin Durant. They're probably going to drop a bit. I mean, they still have Devin Booker. I think Utah's on the rise. Obviously, San Antonio's on the rise. And then there's sort of like the perennial good teams like the Warriors, like the Nuggets, the Lakers, inevitably too.
Mm,
Um,
we'll see.
the defending champion OKC Thunder. Lakers when healthy.
When healthy. Who are their centers? Sorry.
Yeah, I mean
Exactly.
that's the tough part. I mean,
Who are their fours?
yeah, it's not great. I mean, that
Who's
being
playing
said,
defense on their team?
I think
Marcus Smart.
yeah,
How
I
old is
mean,
he? 30
it's
plus. Come on.
I think they still get in the playoffs, but like, I don't see the Lakers as a finals contender.
I think the Lakers sneak in the playoffs
Yeah.
if they're lucky.
I see them as a play-in team too, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
play in.
they'll finish in the top 10. Dallas is a weird, like, there's a lot of unpredictable teams, and I think the West is still the better conference, of course, but Sacramento's bad. New Orleans is bad.
Minnesota's, I mean, they're going to be strong this year for sure.
Yeah.
They came off a great playoffs. Rockets should be good. I don't see the Grizzlies doing as well as
No.
I think they would, but
I mean, when John Morant's healthy, they can kind of, you never really know. But at the
No.
same time, the depth is not really there right now. I mean, he
No.
does not have a good supporting cast. I think though, like, don't sleep on Portland or Utah. I know Lauri Markkanen could get moved, and that would completely change things. But that too big lineup with Walker Kessler and Lauri Markkanen, we saw what it did to the Clippers, and
it's strong.
it's strong. And I
Yeah.
think Portland is one of the deeper teams. I know they're there. I mean, their coach got arrested, so that is tough. And I don't know. I mean,
Gambling going
Tiago Splitter's done a good job, I think, and they're a deep team. And when you have a guy like Jeremy Grant, and Drew Hall, like those two vets running the team, and Denny Avdia being a 20+ machine every night, they look good against the Clippers in some regard. I know they lost, but yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting 4 games
It
for
has.
sure. It's been a weird 4 games, like as you described it. I agree for sure, and I think if you're the Clippers, they're a weird team to forecast because they feel like they're gonna. They have the tools there, and we've seen them in the playoffs these
They're-
past few years.
The tools are right there.
The tools
They're
are
right in front of you.
the toolbox is full, but is it sustainable? Is health and depth? Because if you don't have Beal and you're having to exhaust, either Dunn or Collins, like the depth isn't as strong with Beal. I think
Batum too.
Batum as well.
Someone you need late in the season. You don't want to play Batum too early.
Yeah.
You don't want to.
I agree, and I think when you have Beal, like the depth is strong. And we saw that when the home opener, but against Phoenix. But after that, it just felt like the lineups get really screwed up. So.
Yeah. Zoo needs more touches. I think that's something that I haven't touched on as much, but Zoo needs more paint touches. When Zoo touches the ball, when Zoo is scoring, everyone feeds off of that. Everyone eats. The Warriors play small ball. Why did Ty Lue decide to go small against the Warriors?
Yeah, I don't know.
Why would you go small?
One thing to Ty Lue's credit, when they did play Portland, he went big.
He went big. Go big.
Yeah.
Who's going to guard Zoo in the post? Quinton Post? Okay.
And against Portland, like Klingon only played 23 minutes. Hansen, the rookie, barely played. That is a feast waiting to happen. And I know the Clippers won, but they only won by 7 points.
Dre's a great defender. He's not stopping Zoo.
No.
Zoo is a foot taller than him.
Yeah, and I mean, even if he is, for some reason, you can flex.
You have so many options.
Yeah, and then if that doesn't work, you can find a way, and they almost did. Do you have any closing thoughts tonight? I know we'll be back, next week, but any closing thoughts before? I mean, I know there's only 4 games to reference, but it's been a lot of storylines so far.
I think sample size is important.
Yeah,
4 games out of an 82-game season. It's not much.
Yeah.
Let's see what Ty Lue comes up with. Let's see if he changes his lineups. I know he does like to stick with similar lineups for the first 10 games. That's something I've noticed over the last however many seasons. But I hope he changes things up if Beal is out for an extended period of time. And I look forward to seeing the defensive intensity go up a little bit.
Yeah.
I think defense leads to offense many times in the modern NBA, and that's something that we're missing.
It's the most important thing, right? I mean, we've seen how stagnant at times the Clippers offense has been, and when they've won the 2 games so far this year, it's been because of the defense at its core, and that relies on Zoo and Brook Lopez and Batum, like go on and on. They have good defenders on this team. You got to utilize them the right way, Ty Lue. That's what I'll leave it at. But if that's everything, thank you so much for tuning in to the first video episode of Unclipped. I'm Kazliner, joined alongside Aarav for the first time. I had a blast doing this week. We'll be back next week, and we'll have more games to talk about as the Clippers come back for a little bit of a homestand, including a game on Halloween. So we'll see you guys in the next one, and have a great rest of your night.